I'm Gregory Gerlovin. You're listening to Motivational Mondays. Jane Egerton is a regional sales manager West Africa for the satellite company Avanti Communications. She's a champion of diversity in the workplace as well as an advocate for more women in STEM. Jane, tell us more about the roles of diversity and inclusion in your work and how you discovered your passion for mentoring others.
When we have diverse teams, we solve old problems with new ways. We see old problems from a different light. We include others and we get a better or a more effective solution. And that's normally what happens where we have products for a particular target market. But in developing that product, in making decisions around it, there is nobody or no one represents that audience. So you tend to see a disconnect. You can either deliver the product or you create something that is disconnected with the target audience. So that's why for businesses, it is so important. But even as human beings, it is so important. And I say that especially when it comes to, women in STEM, because that is something I'm so passionate about. Because I was so curious, why do we have fewer women? And sometimes it's just the perceived notion, and those biases come that, this is a male-dominated field, only males can do it because it requires a lot of physical skill sets or physical attributes. And as a young girl, I see that because that was what I was told. And I even talk about that in my book. I think the first few times I had a couple of close relatives find out I wanted to study engineering in school. They were like, oh, no, you shouldn't do that. That's for guys. You'll be competing with the guys. They were almost insinuating you're not as smart as the guys. And initially, I bought into that notion, I changed my course of study. Then I got into the university and I checked. So when you get into university, when you first get admitted, you have to go to this board where they put everybody's name. So to see your department, your score and all that after you've taken the exams to get in. Then I went to the board. So I decided to choose some course that was insignificant as I taught. Engineering was 5 years. This course was going to be 4 years. It sounded like it was going to be super easy. And my name was number 1 on the board. If I'd even chosen engineering, which I wanted to do, I would have still made the top 10. So why did I change that? And that was one of the first and biggest lessons I learned as an adult, as a young adult. Was that your dreams are yours to fight for. Don't sell yourself short. Of course, I later went on to change the course of study to engineering. It took a whole 1 year of hard work. But that just speaks to the fact that we still have biases, unconscious biases sometimes. Sometimes it's conscious in the workforce, out in the environment, based on culture. There's a perceived way, especially where I am from in Africa, women are expected to behave, what they're expected to aspire for, what they're expected to dream about. And sometimes it's contrary to you as an individual, what you believe or how you see yourself. But what happens is that in the organizations, when we come with this unconscious bias, the organization loses. The company loses because we don't have effective ways to solve the problem because we're not representing the entire audience which we're seeking to engage or sell to. So talking about women in the workforce is something I became passionate about. I did so personally. I got involved. I'm sure you would have noticed in trying to attract younger girls, have more women in the industry, stay in the industry. I did that using personal programs I ran together with my organization, but it became a very, very big thing for me. So for me, one of the reasons, again, I keep saying we need to have more women at the table, because when you're at the table, you can speak to the challenges and you can also use your voice to push for the solution. Just as easy as that. I could go on and on and on. I tell young women, and I'm saying that also to your audience, maybe not the examples I give, but in their own lives, in whatever they do, they will see those challenges. And I want them to speak up because you have to be the solution. And nobody else understands the problem and nobody else will create a solution. You understand the challenge. You have to be at the table to speak up. I went to give a speaking engagement at a university in Ghana. And that university is a technical university, University of Mines and Technology. It's been there for 50 years. But only 10% of the population is female. So it was a long speaking engagement. So I think halfway I wanted to use the restroom and I asked that I want to take a break and use the restroom. And they told me, unfortunately, on that side of campus, there was no restroom for female students. I was shocked. But, I was very fortunate since I was a guest. One of the lecturers, agreed to allow me use her own personal washroom. So I can remember on the way to the washroom, one of the students was escorting me, and I was asking her, how is it possible this university has been around for about 60 years and you don't have any female washroom in the lecture area? What do you guys do when you're really pressed? Oh, she told me they have to walk like 2 hours and go back to the hostels. And I'm like, why? Why don't you talk about this in the student union, leadership meetings? Oh, we don't have any women there. The only woman there, she's, I think she said she was the secretary or something like that. You know what I did? When I went back to the room to continue with my speaking engagement, the first thing I did was ask, who are all those in the student union leadership? All the guys stood up. And I told the women, who wants to contest next year? And I told them I wasn't going to stop until I see some hands. And I told the guys, you need to help those women, teach them what it takes to contest and get positions on that leadership team. So we don't have issues like no female washroom in the lecture area. Because if they're at the table, then they can tell you the issues and the challenges they're facing. If they're not there, none of the guys will know that there's no washroom. It's not their problem, They don't get to face that kind of pain. So back to your orders, that's the reason why it is important to take the leadership role in those kind of challenges. Because sometimes even the people we are blaming are not even aware that we have those challenges.
Jane, what's the best way for our members to learn more about your work?
I do have a website, janeegerton.com, and I share a lot of what I do on that website. There's a nonprofit that I also co-founded. It's called Women and Career, also womenandcareer.com. There's a link to that also from my personal website. But that nonprofit is really aimed at helping women in the workforce, literally helping them stay in the workforce and encouraging more young girls to actually join the workforce. Because we thought that was, one of the things we could do is to support that, is to, give people the right skills, give them the right information to support that journey.
Thanks, Jane. And thank you for listening to Motivational Mondays. This conversation is created by the National Society of Leadership and Success. Audible's providing a $1,000 scholarship to one lucky listener. To enter, tweet this week's keyword, table, at the NSLS, and use hashtag the NSLS by end of day Wednesday. We'll announce the winner on Twitter on Friday. As a reminder, all NSLS members get a $129 gift from Audible, including free audiobooks. If you didn't already, claim your member gift at audible.com/NSLS.